as we get set for another Royal London Cup clash, another battle of the bridge between the Essex Eagles and Kent Spitfires. We're out on the square, just about to have the coin toss. The two umpires and the match referee, Peter Such, just explaining to the two skippers what they want. Tom Wesley, of course, captain of the Essex Eagles. Joe Denley in charge of the Kent Spitfires this afternoon. Ian Blackwell and Billy Taylor, the two umpires, just confirming arrangements for the game. So Tom has the coin. Joe's called heads. And it's tails. Joe, you happy with that? We're not. Tom, let's have a chat. Right, you've won the toss. What are you doing?
We're going to be batting.
Right, plenty of positives from Wantage Road, almost but not quite.
Yeah, I think there's so much good that happened up at Northants, but unfortunately I think we were finding our feet as a team, and unfortunately we couldn't go over the line. But like you just touched on there, I think we've shown some glimpses of how good we could be in this comp.
Right, team news for this afternoon?
So we've got one change. Benkenstein's coming in for Buttleman, which means Rulison's taking the gloves.
Excellent. Right, go and get yourselves ready. Go well, Joe, if I could invite you in. Welcome back to the Cloud County ground. Battle of the Bridge always has something a little bit different in it.
Yeah, we always look forward to this fixture. It's always a competitive game and always a decent crowd, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Two teams that both desperately require that tick in the win column. You've had, like the Eagles, you've had moments of brilliance so far, but just getting over the line is so important today.
Yeah, obviously getting the win today is important. We've played some good cricket, 1 from 2, but obviously looking to put that right today.
Good to see you back in the mix. Any other team news for the Spitfires?
Yeah, unfortunately Grant Stewart's missing out through injury. Harry Finch comes in and George Linder's unavailable as well, and I come in for him.
Well, good to see you back on the park. Go well today. Thanks for your time. Right, so Essex Eagles have won the toss and will bat. Just a reminder that before play starts, we will have a moment's applause for 3 stalwarts of Essex cricket, as we remember them as they have sadly passed away recently. But that will come just before the players come out. Join us then. We will run through the team lists before then. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, before the start of play today, we are going to have a minute's applause in remembrance of 3 Essex stalwarts. Chelmsford and across county outgrounds and at the festivals which he especially loved. He worked the main scoreboard for more than 30 years and retired at 85. Roy sadly passed away on Tuesday, aged 91. Norma Palmer was the late partner of Doug Insole and regularly attended matches with Doug, and of course was present for the naming of the Doug Insole Pavilion. She passed away on the 5th of August. And then former player William Bill Greensmith died on the 15th of July. Bill was an integral part of the Essex team in the 50s and early 60s, making 371 first-class appearances between 1947 and 1963 before emigrating to Australia, where he lived until his death. So now all the players and the umpires, I would ask you to join with me now in a minute's applause to remember the lives of Roy Peaford, Norma Palmer and Bill Greensmith. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Now please welcome to the pitch the Kent Spitfires, led by Captain Joe Denley. And the opening batters for the Essex Eagles, number 49, Josh Rymel, and number 23, Feroz Kushi.
Harry Finch as well, who was on loan last year from Sussex for the Spitfires. And Senny comes in, bowling from the river end and just pushed into the offside, gently actually, more as a defensive shot there, as it's Josh Rymel taking strike. And for Rose Cushy, is that right at the other end?
That is correct,
I want to make sure I get the pronunciations right.
118, I think it was, he got at Northampton the other day. Did feature in the championship side earlier in the season, but sadly lost his place. And Josh Rymel, who had a wonderful time in this competition a year ago, has yet to recapture that form, so it's an important afternoon for him.
One thing this competition does do is give opportunities to young players, and 2 slips in, Senny comes in now, bowling. Oh, it's a play and a miss outside the off stump. It's died a little bit. I'm not sure he's actually taken pace off that, Senny, but full length delivery just outside off stump. It looked like it might have even gone under the bat of Josh Rymel as he pushed forward.
Yeah,
2 balls and gone.
Ever the way at Chelmsford, it is a slow pitch, and I suspect our excellent groundsman, Stuart Kerrison, has been lent on this year to produce. I mean, you were here for the championship game. It was basically a 1 innings bore.
As Senny now bowls to Rymel and flicks that away down to third, and Essex get off the mark. A little warm round of applause from an increasingly warm crowd here at Chelmsford. Good numbers though, once again, as we said many times on these commentaries. Apparently one-day cricket, domestic cricket in this country, is what fans least want to see. No one's told the fans, they're still turning up. So
yeah. It's not as good a crowd yet as the one for the Derbyshire game, but plenty of time for it to fill up in the next hour or two.
So 1 for none. Cushy will face in a minute. He's just doing some running on the spot, loosening up the thighs and the calves as he takes strike now, not to be hurried in international. Senny bowling from the river end now, goes away from us, and Cushy, the right-hander, just drops down on that, goes quite close to his stumps, probably 6 stump as he jabs it into the ground, but no real danger, just an ooh from wicket-keeper Ollie Robinson for another dot ball. The pitch itself, as we look from the river end, is pushed towards the pavilion side of the ground, so the longer side of the ground is the offside for Rose Cushy as he faces now with 1 ball to go of this opening over. If I'm counting right. And, sorry, it's 2, isn't it?
2
Sending down to Cushy, forward defensive.
Yes.
These numbers.
Not a serious error, but perhaps
No.
the counting just needs a little
It does
touching up.
indeed, yeah. I got a bit lost in my reveries about pitch placements.
Yeah, the problem for Stuart Kerrison now, the excellent Essex groundsman, is that if he doesn't produce a pitch that does something on day one, it never will, because habitually it gets easier and easier to bat on. Second inning scores are often bigger than first, unless you produce an absolute pudding, and then you see a spectacle that isn't a spectacle.
And the pitch inspectors come quickly. Here's Senny now to Cushy on a middle and leg. Little hint of pad was there as he turned it into the onside. Dot ball anyway. End of the over, and just a single from it then. Kent Spitfires bowling with Navdeep Senny. Essex Eagles winning the toss and electing to bat first. I'm off for my first, well, it'll be a preview as much as an update for BBC Radio Kent.
Yep, thanks very much, Matt. You'll rejoin us in a moment or two. And you're listening to Ball by Ball commentary in the one-day tournament between Essex and Kent here at Chelmsford. I'm Paul Newton, with me Matt Cole, you just heard, and Glenn Speller will join us in about 25 minutes, and always great to have our scorer David Jackman with us. Kent, to their credit, have 2 slips in at this stage, and it's Matt Quinn, once of this parish, who's returning, very, very popular man, really nice fellow, and shall always remember Matt for his part in Essex's win in the most extraordinary championship game I think I've seen certainly this century at the Oval in 2018, last game of the season. Surrey champions, hadn't lost a game all season. Essex rocked them over for 67. Essex got a first innings lead of 410. Surrey then made about 540. Essex needed about 132 to win. They won by 1 wicket. And Morné Morkel hit Matt Quinn on the helmet and I thought, well, if he has to go off, that's the end of the game, and Surrey have won. But he miraculously carried on, and Essex duly won by 1 wicket. Next ball's played into the offside, the first of Matt Quinn, coming in from the Hayes close end, won that for no wicket. And the other thing I particularly remember about the game is the skill with which Ryan Tenduscarter, nowadays Kent batting coach, kept running out his partners. So Essex would have won fairly easily but for that. Fairness to Ryan, fantastic bloke and wonderful player for Essex over 2 decades. He made 50 odd not out, without which Surrey would have won very, very easily. Here is Quinn in. Bowls, and a bit of desperation here, not what's needed from Josh Reinhold. He started coming down the wicket, clearly took his eye off the ball and just had a waft. And he's just fortunate that Matt Quinn's delivery went over the top of the stumps. If this had been the same pitch as the one that Essex drew with Somerset on in the most recent championship game here, it wouldn't have gone over the top of the stumps. It would have hit it about 2 inches up. So not a good tactic from Josh Reinhold. You don't want to let the opposition know that you're in a bit of a desperate state as Quinn bowls to him again, and that's much better. Doesn't come out of the middle of the bat, and a moral victory for Matt Quinn. A little bit of movement, and it came off something of a leading edge, but all along the ground to extra cover. But Josh, who's a very fine player and had a great time in this tournament a year ago, needs to remember that, as Dave Fletcher, the Derbyshire commentator, quite rightly pointed out when he was here a week ago, 50 overs is a long time. You don't need to start panicking or even worrying about the first 10 overs and the power play. As here we see the next delivery. Oh, I'm afraid it's another bad shot from Reinhold. And any coach worth his salt would have said, what didn't you do, son? And I keep telling you, you didn't move your feet. And he just wafted at it. It was too close to him for the shot because it was an off-cutter by the time it reached him. And again, fortunate with 2 slips in as well as the wicket-keeper not to get the edge.
It sounds like an obvious thing to say, but I think we might say the same about Tawanda Mayaya, who just hasn't quite yet, young cricketer, hasn't quite got into pacing his innings in the different forms of cricket.
Yep, it's catching is this habit. As here is Quinn in and bowls, and that is a nice shot, and that one has gone away for 4 runs, as the crowd will tell you. It goes past backward point, who made a despairing dive, but once he couldn't reel it in, it was game over from that point of view. 4 runs, the first shot of any authority in this Essex innings, and they are 5 for no wicket in the second over, having unsurprisingly decided to bat.
Yeah, that'll certainly do, won't it? Flashing across this, well, almost needless to say, very dry outfield. Going very quickly past Harry Finch, who's at backward point. Drafted into this One Day Cup side as he was last year for Kent.
Quinn bowls to Reinhold. And Reinhold this time treats the ball on its merit, something he didn't do on 2 occasions in that over, and plays it safely and correctly out to extra cover, and there is no run. 2 overs in, 5 for no wicket. Essex having won the toss and batted. Reinhold with the monopoly of the scoring so far. Cushy has had much less of the strike and yet to get off the mark.
So we're discussing the ramifications of wins and losses for these 2 sides. There certainly will be something on this for both. Joe Denley said coming back from had a bulging disc in his lower back, which is not something you want to mess around with. So out of the first 3 games in this, but comes in, was always due to captain the Spitfires. Alex Blake in his stead, 1 win and 2 defeats for them. Senny bowling then to Reinhold, pushes it into the offside, and there's no run. That's Cushy, sorry, beg your pardon. Efficiently stopped, but you'd expect Alex Blake to do that without any great fanfare. All being passed back between the fielders.
Yep, and the standards of fielding has risen dramatically in recent years, but some would say the only side of the 3 elements to a cricket match where that you could say standards have gone up. Not so sure about batting and bowling.
An interesting conversation with John Shepherd a couple of years ago about that, as he bowls Senny on the full, the drive by Cushy into the offside, again stopped by Alex Blake, and he said that was the main difference for him from playing in the 70s is and he was very self-deprecating about it. If a ball was passing you at, a foot or so past you and a cover drive, you weren't throwing yourself at it. You would almost applaud it through to the boundary.
Yes.
that's the difference, especially for the bowlers.
Well, I remember John Shepherd very fondly, and a lovely story about him when we get a moment between deliveries, which Kent supporters will enjoy.
He's a lovely man, is John. And Senni now bowling to Kushi onto middle stump, turns it into the onside, fielded by Kadri, number 75 on his back. Diminutive off spinner, throws it back to wicket-keeper Ollie Robinson.
Many moons ago, the venue's Folkestone, John Shepherd to Graham Gooch. First delivery almost takes Gooch's head off, didn't have a helmet at the time. Quite a long delay while someone brings him a helmet, puts it on, retakes his guard, next ball, straight along the ground and bowled him.
That's the way to do it, some might say.
Yeah.
So Senni back to his mark now. The Indian quick bowler. 2 for Kushi. And drive, a lusty one as well, hasn't quite timed it up to Nathan Gilchrist at mid-on, who somewhat challenges wicket-keeper Ollie Robinson by throwing it well wide of the stumps at the other end.
Yeah, it was such a good piece of fielding until he threw it.
Yeah.
And that rather spoilt it, because I was just thinking he looks a good fielder, and suddenly the throw to the wicket-keeper, and he's basically, he's more or less front on to him, has landed well off the cut strip.
Talking about Harry Finch drafted back into this Kent side because they've got injuries in batting. No George Linder, who has a soft tissue injury, we gather. And of course Darren Stevens, who limped off a couple of games ago with a calf injury. Not as bad as they had worried. So he may well be back in the next couple of games for Kent in the One Day Cup. Senni now bowling to Kushi down the leg side. That'll certainly be adding to the total. It's actually a good stop in the end by Ollie Robinson. Had to do it the second opportunity, but down the leg side. Oh, I beg your pardon. It was a glance. There we go. It's an even better stop. No, it is a wide. It's not a wide. It came off the bat. It didn't come off the bat. The umpires don't seem to be entirely agreed. The umpire at square leg is asking whether that was wide. I think that's Ian Blackwell.
It is
there.
indeed. And he's, in fact, then it looks like
It's
he's
come off the bat, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the glove, maybe. Must have been the thinnest of contact as it went through. It, they did more or less walk through for a single, as Ollie Robinson, unsurprisingly, had quite a great deal of trouble stopping the balls at fire down leg. As Senni now bowls, trot past the stumps. And that is a full shot. They're going to come for a single, running a bit indifferent, but they got there in the end. Crikey. Rymel chopped it past his stumps, didn't know very much about it, and Kushi was backing up ferociously and almost...
I like that pun there.
almost,
Ferociously.
Oh, crikey, ferociously. I wasn't intending that. But almost to his demise, having to dive in a great puff of dust.
I feel
the striker's
miffed.
end. Single taken.
I feel miffed as I've never spotted how close his name is to Ferocious. But what a silly run. If that throw hits, he's gone. He dived headlong. In the end, the dive was irrelevant because it was a straight choice between if it hits, he's out, and if it doesn't, he's in. But again, there's a little sense of desperation about Essex that isn't really called for in the third over, as that was, of a 50 overs game. Here's Matt Quinn again in from the Hayes close end of bowls. Rymel makes ground outside leg stump in order to play this one into the offside, but this one picks out extra cover, Blake, and there is no run there, so score remaining at 7 without loss in the fourth over.
You may have had the first casualty of the heat this afternoon, which is my laptop, which has not taken kindly to being
No, I don't think mine
barbecued
has.
on the desk. So
Yeah. I'm sort of continually just having a glance at our Kubi to make sure that we are still going out live, as here's the next delivery from Quinn, and this ball, Rymel plays what looked quite a nice shot, but he didn't properly get inside the line of the ball in order to dispatch that to the mid-wicket boundary, and perfectly safe, but it just went somewhat apologetically and slowly to a fieldsman 20 yards from the bat at mid-wicket.
I feel like we should be doing a public service announcement. If you're out and about in the sun today, it's hot. There we go.
Indeed.
I think that's
Of course.
so the health and safety announcement ends.
We must always remember that some of our listeners are in places like Iceland.
That's true enough.
And so there may be people saying, well, they keep going on about the heat for. But certainly in England, it's probably hotter than most other places in the world. I certainly hope so, as Quinn's in. Bowls to Rymel, nice little tuck up the pads here, and that will bring him at least one. In fact, they're coming back for two. A little bit of a misunderstanding between the two fieldsmen chasing it, but in the end it doesn't cost an extra run. In fact, a nice throw coming in from the distance. 9 for no wicket in the 4th over.
I wonder if our listener John from Norway is listening. Perhaps he can tell us what it's like in Valdal today.
Yeah.
He's listening online.
Matt Quinn, New Zealander, spent 4 or 5 years with Essex, is in bowls, and this ball is a wide, clearly signalled by Ian Blackwell, and you get the impression that he was rather keen on signalling one a wide in the previous over, even though he was standing at square leg at the time. So he gets his way here, and nice to see Ian Blackwell, who is a bit of a pun on his name, but it's not meant that way. But he, if there is a player on the county circuit, if we think back a few years, who looked like the village blacksmith, it was Ian Blackwell, and he could hit the ball a mighty distance. As here is Quinn again. 2 slips still in. Bowls, a nice shot here through the covers, pretty much square. It was forced off the back foot, wasn't a drive. Very nicely played on the up by Josh Rymel there, who is a fine stroke player when he gets going, and it's 14 for no wicket, of which he has 12.
Yeah, lovely shot indeed. Just actually one of our overseas listeners, Kester, is been on and saying, oh no, loud and clear now. There we go, Kester, that's good news. He was worried he couldn't get the commentary. Great to have your company from Hungary this afternoon.
Rymel plays the next ball to backward point. No run there. And the score is 14 for no wicket in the 4th over. 12 to Rymel, 1 to Cushy, the other run being a wide. You're listening to Ball by Ball commentary on behalf online on behalf of BBC Essex, BBC Radio Kent. Paul Newton here with Matt Cole, and in about a quarter of an hour we'll be joined by BBC Essex Sports editor Glenn Speller. We're also delighted to have David Jackman scoring for us in the box here, as Quinn is on his way again, past umpire Ian Blackwell. 2 slips, bowls, and that one was probably just fading down leg side, and it's taken the edge and shot past second slip very low, and that is one of the problems of the pitch, particularly on a hot summer like this. The carry is very low, and it goes for 4, and it's 18 for no wicket. 4 fortunate runs for Rymel there. It nearly paid off for Kent to have 2 slips. Rymel has 16. If we go back to the one that Ollie Robinson dived to his left and stopped very well, where there was a bit of bat on it, that almost carried as well, and on a quicker pitch it would have done.
Yeah, Ben Compton immediately mimed, almost like a soldier lining up for parade, at 3rd slip, that he would have caught that, no problems at all. But I think a 3rd slip might be seen as a little bit of a luxury, even in a power play of a one-day cup match. But you're right, it was low anyway, wasn't it? He was diving to his right.